Okay, guys, why don't you come forward? So you guys gonna do the international student piece first, or the model UN?
So
Model
are you
UN,
guys
just look at-
enjoying any part of
And
school
Alex, are
at
you
this
gonna help with the
moment?
model UN?
I'm sorry?
Are you helping with the model UN too?
No, they got
They
it.
got- okay, great. All right, ladies, you wanna introduce
They're
yourself
taking
first?
notes.
Hi everyone, my name is Shannon Abelins and I am a junior at MHS.
Hi everyone, my name is Nurana Aliyeva and I'm an exchange student from Azerbaijan and I'm also a senior.
Hi everyone, my name is Baktagul and I'm from country Kyrgyzstan, exchange student, and I'm also senior at MHS.
Give us 1 second on the computer here.
Oh, okay.
It's starting up here again.
Okay.
I apologize.
Tom, jeez.
Sorry,
Places go.
If we wanna go ahead and do the consent agenda right away, is that all right? While they're getting that presentation? So
Okay.
ladies, we'll come right back to you.
Then we will move on to the consent agenda. I'm looking for approval of the board minutes of March 18th, 2019, as well as approval of voucher numbers 121,971, 122,260, in the amount of $1,392,000 and change, and receipts from March in the amount of $8,595,000 and change. Do I have any objections? Hearing none, they are passed by consent. Was that too fast?
And if you don't mind, then we'll go on to the first action item with appointments, resignations, retirements. Is that all right?
Yeah.
And if you turn to page 31 in your packet. So do you want to take them all at one time, or what's your preference? Resignations first and then do?
Take them all at one time? Do I have a motion?
Okay, so I'll just explain.
Okay.
So tonight we have Bethany Heinritz, K-1 teacher at Eagleville, and Ashley Osprong, third grade teacher at Prairie View. Both are resigning. And then we do have 2 retirements tonight. I want to make sure that we give mention to Spencer Fretchel, science teacher, chemistry teacher at Mugwanago High School for the last 28 years, and Don Haar, science teacher, biology and AP biology at Mugwanago High School for the last 34 years. So we do have a number of science teachers retiring this year. That will be number 4. And so we do have some changes in the science department, but right now we should make sure that we thank Spencer and Don for those wonderful years of service. They've done a lot of great science instruction for our kids the past several years.
I'd like to make a motion, we accept these.
I'll second.
And both were very active outside the classroom also, whether it was coaching volleyball, forensics, tennis, science club, a lot of
Be
great stuff
missed,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, they will be missed.
Way missed.
Absolutely.
All right, I have a first and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Any progress, Tom?
we got a white arrow on the screen.
Okay, that's a great
I think
start,
they
Tom.
need- I think they need more than that.
Nice
All right.
flying around.
Well, then, let's keep
So
moving.
we'll
Let's
keep
move
moving
on.
while Tom works on that. And maybe Nick could help you, because
Uh,
Nick's good at that.
Is Nick here?
Yes, he
Hey,
is.
Nick. What do we got, bud? We are blank. I did control.
How about we
delete. I don't
designate an
think it's
official
progressing at
newspaper?
this point
So
here.
we are asking that the Waukesha Freeman,
I just did a
be our
workstation
official
login
newspaper.
only. Should we just log in under normal credentials?
so for official
Yours or mine?
announcements, that's our recommendation.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
No, I'm not.
Any other discussion? We have a first and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that passes. And bank depositories.
Yeah, and we'll recommend that we continue to go with Citizens Bank and the local government investment pool as our official bank depository for the 1920 school year.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes.
And here comes our favorite part of the meeting.
School board
The new
delegate
guy.
to CISA 1.
New guys.
They always get it.
Sorry, the new guys keep getting thrown under the
So if you take a look at the memo on page 33, as you know, we are part of the CISA 1, and they do have a Board of Control meeting. And that Board of Control meeting is on Tuesday, May 21. Technically, we're not supposed to do this board action until after the fourth Monday in April. But after this meeting tonight, we have our strategic planning meeting later this month. And we have a strategic planning meeting earlier in May. But we don't meet again as a board for a meeting with action items until the Tuesday after Memorial Day. So we're gonna have to make this decision tonight. We can make it the Tuesday after Memorial Day, but then someone will be crushed by missing the CISA 1 Board of Control meeting on Tuesday, May 21st.
Do we have to do anything to allow for going against what the state statute says?
No, they'll be okay with it. As long as we designate someone to attend, they'll be fine.
Roll on one.
I'll nominate Joel. I second it.
We have a first and a second for Joel. Do I have any other discussion?
Yeah, I recall someone saying he was good at meetings and such. So.
I just want to make sure, Art, you're not upset. You don't want this?
No,
Okay.
I'll get over it.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor of Joel, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Joel? No? Say aye.
Congratulations,
All right, motion passes. Joel?
It's tradition to throw the new guy under the bus.
All been there.
So, so then the next item is actually for the WASB convention in January. We're looking for a delegate to go to the resolution convention. And Erica has filled that role for the last
Are you
5.
So good at it.
are you doing it again?
You knew it?
last
I
few
mean,
years, so
Honestly, through all the years,
4th year. 4 years. I
say,
did the last 4
as long as
delegates.
it-
'Cause
Yeah.
my very first year, Joel, I was thrown under the bus, and I have stayed there since.
so are you wanting to do that? Because honestly, before you did that, you know.
It's
I
a
mean,
wonderful
it's been-
experience. I would
it's
encourage
excelled.
anyone that would like to do it,
Been there.
that I would like for them to take the opportunity. You learn a lot. However, I will be going as an attendee anyway.
Well, then.
But I think that there's a lot to be gained from the experience.
I agree. I've done it, and I think it's something someone should do once.
I would like to nominate Erica.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor of me, again, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Looks like we're gonna keep going. Extended field trip approval, MHS marching band trip to Minneapolis.
So as you know, or as you may know, and this was reviewed by the Learning Committee, the marching band has performed in Minneapolis last fall, and they would like to go back again. And you can see the itinerary in your packet, and that it starts on page 36, goes to 37 and 38, maybe even 39 and 40. So it's a trip that you have approved in the past, and we'd like to get it approved again.
Cost to the district? I don't believe so. It's paid for by the marching band. Mhm.
Correct.
We would normally bring this to 2 meetings, but as Sean said, there's not another meeting with action items planned for until May. So just to let her, Miss Angeles, start to plan, it'd be nice to get it approved tonight.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes.
I do think we're ready with the presentation now.
Yep.
So,
Okay. And the board, board members, you do have this presentation in your packet. And so, Alex, this is the same presentation, right? Yeah, okay, great. So,
I mean, we can just use.
if you go to page 22, I think. All right, sorry about the technical difficulties, ladies.
You're completely fine. Don't worry about
All right, great. And then we're going to ask you guys to speak into the microphone when whoever's talking or presenting.
Okay, we're good.
All right, awesome.
So yes, all three of us, while he's figuring that out, are a part of Model United Nations. Narana here was the key person who started this club at MHS. She learned about it from her country and her school, and she brought it here. And I've definitely taken a more leadership role in the club in general. And we, as the club is in its infancy stages, we are struggling a little bit just making sure our members are there on time, and communication, as you all have probably experienced in this group alone. But we are definitely working towards making this club bigger and better, and we hope to see it progress further. So I don't know if you want to talk about anything about. Okay.
Next slide.
Yeah. So Model UN in its entirety is for any student who has a passion in anything related to global citizenship, debating, governments, the world, anything related to culture, diplomacy, and international issues in general. Through this club, it is a very hands-on activity, and you simulate the role of a delegate in the United Nations. And you would take the stance of a country and their viewpoint on certain issues. And so these meetings do take place every Monday from 3 to 4 in Miss Burstad's room, and Fridays during flex. And so it's open to the entire school, whoever feels like they would like to join and learn more about international issues. So meetings do take place, like I said, on Mondays. And there's an image of our meeting room. We sit in a circle and discuss certain topics. Our topic this week was counteractive terrorism. And so today we each had a country, and we sat in a circle and discussed our country's personal viewpoints on such a topic and debated on why the country views that way, what their past programs have been, and et cetera regarding terrorism. But that's not the only limited topic.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So the stances that you take representing a country, you're starting with basically their history, where they stand in the nation or in the world right now at this time.
Yes, so actually most important thing about Model United Nations is you are not yourself during the session. You're the delegate of some country. So, and it's also the hardest part because sometimes your views about some given issue might be completely different of what your country thinks about it. So you should represent your country's today's view of points during this issue, like about this issue, and you should advocate about it, and you should stand it, and you should make your points and resolution pass during the session. Yes.
Okay, cool.
And so a big event we had this year was the Waukesha West Conference. And Waukesha West was generous enough to invite us to have a conference it's more of a learning conference, so it wasn't super professional or intense necessarily. However, it provided a great opportunity for all of our new students who have never done Model United Nations before to experience what a conference would look like. So Arrowhead was there, Brookfield East, Kettle Moraine, McWanago, and Waukesha West. So there were about 50 delegates in total who were all there, and we just had a huge conference in their library, so just to learn more about how a normal session would run. And so a conference does look like meetings with individual committees. And so in that conference, we had 4 different committees. I personally was on violence against women as the country of Nigeria. And so we debated about how women are treated in the various countries that were represented in that room. And in that room, we created resolutions about the problems that are occurring in other countries and how to combat them. And these resolutions were just like any other United Nations documents they have. And so we created these resolutions about our beliefs and within their own countries and what those countries personally believed in. And so after those meetings occur between the committees, resolutions are then brought to the General Assembly meeting where the whole group of countries vote on the resolutions you tried to work on in your smaller groups. And then after that, there are awards awarded to best delegates and best position papers. Now at our Waukesha West conference, there was not a best position paper because it was more of a practice learning conference, but there were best delegates. And I think we have pictures there. So me and Narana both won best delegate. And in our personal committees, those were voted on by the other delegates in the group. And they thought that her and I both best represented our countries. Thank you. And being my first conference at all, it was just like really shocking to see how everything works. And so I'm just glad I got to see. Narana's way more of a seasoned vet, I guess you could say, in this regard. But I definitely was shocked that it was that crazy. So it was super cool.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So did the schools and the other schools at the conference, do they have a club such as yours then?
Yes.
Are there other schools in the area that do, or is that the majority that?
So Waukesha West has its own school. So how did they actually start doing this conference? It all started with us emailing them that we have this club too, and we've heard that you guys also have this club. So would you like to do a conference together? So because of this, and Kettle Marine High School, they also have it. They planned a session together, but two other schools, Brookfield is, and what was another one? Yeah, Arrowhead. They didn't have their own Model United Nations team too. So they somehow contacted them. Like, it's actually because of us, those two schools, they also started Model United Nations Club because it was their first time too. And yes.
Thank you.
Who were the judges? Maybe I missed that in your presentation.
The judges of the conference were run by ex-Model United Nations members as well as current ones. So they're more called chairs and co-chairs. And so one of the chairs was a current freshman at college, and so she came back to visit her Waukesha West school where she was an ex-Model United Nations member, and she presided over our meeting. And then a current senior at Waukesha West was the other co-chair. And so they ran it, and the General Assembly meeting at least, and guided us in ways of the regular occurrences of a conference. And so these are just some funny quotes or interesting quotes that we have from students in Model UN currently. I said this club has become such an important part of my life in such a short amount of time, and the connections I have made are irreplaceable. And that still rings true to this day. We had a meeting today, and I'm falling in love with it more and more. So it's just a great experience for me, as well as these two ladies here. A student named Oliver Bussey said, Model UN has made me realize that high schoolers can accomplish more than the actual UN. Yeah. Bryn Schmitz-Guy said, as a delegate of the DPRK, I got the unique chance to argue a one-of-a-kind viewpoint and learn about global issues. So this does bring back to what Narana said about how the country you're fighting or you're representing might not agree with what your personal beliefs are, but she had to represent North Korea, which is, as we know, very, very.
And the topic was cybersecurity. So I personally think that people should have a free access to internet, but there I had to disagree with everyone who was saying that. So there I had to just be a person from Democratic People's Republic of Korea, not myself, which made it more fun and interesting actually.
It's very exciting to see her argue points and everyone is agreeing, and she's just the one figure, hey, no, we need to not do that. And it's just very interesting to see the varying viewpoints of different countries. This one student, Joe, said, if you want to get a nice picture of the UN, join me as a delegate from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea today and dispute everything the free world suggests, which is again bringing back to that statement. And Nora said, Model United Nations has enabled me to become a more effective public speaker, leader, and debater. The skills I've learned will be useful to me throughout my entire life. And I completely agree with her statement. So these are our plans for the upcoming school year. There are 2 conferences, the Carthage College Conference and the Marian University Conference. So these 2 conferences are with many schools from around the state, and they all attend this conference at the college to do just like what we did at Waukesha West, but on a greater scale and with way more people. So it'll just further our ability to branch out and communicate with other schools and other people and create connections with those students. So they do have costs. However, we do have fundraisers. So Culver's, as we know, and Dairy Queen have been super great supporters of what the school does. And so we contacted Culver's for next year, and Dairy Queen, we have a fundraiser already set up for this month on Monday, April 22nd from 5 to 8. Please bring your families and support Model United Nations. So that way we can raise funds for such conferences and offset the cost for students, as well as the school, Mr. Darren, has said that we can be treated as a competing club, and so that way we can gain more funds from the school in general and offset the cost further for these students. So, yeah.
What kind of funds are necessary? I mean, what is your budget or?
So, as it is stated up there for the Marian University Conference, there is a $100 fee per school, and then $25 per delegate and $15 per advisor. And we have about 15 kids in our club right now, and so it would just be $25 for them, and then the $100, if I remember correctly, based on the meeting Ms. Spurstad had with Mr. Darren, would be offset by the school and would allow us to attend those conferences without worrying about that cost.
So you're being covered on the $100 on each conference?
As I've understood it, yes.
Okay. Because I'd be willing to at least put 100 for each one of those. Okay.
First Weber.
So I will sponsor you.
Okay.
No
thank
problem.
You. Thank you.
All right.
How do you recruit students to join you?
So what we did this year, since our club is brand new, we made announcements and we made posters, and the TVs, which are a great addition to our school, have helped us reach in an electronic poster format almost to students, and for them to see the almost ad like reels or whatever, and they can understand like what it is and go to Miss Burstad and see what the club is about and get information about that. I personally joined the club and knew about it because there were signs put in the girls' bathroom, which might seem a little silly, but it worked obviously because now I'm in love with the club. So I think just simple ways to put posters around the school and get the word out, and by word of mouth, is just really helpful.
I went to, I think, the first 3 or 4 meetings. I didn't end up doing it because of time, but it was really effective in the way that people would join, because it was really, nobody was really pressuring you into doing it. They were rather trying to inform you of what it was, and they cared a lot more about you wanting to be there than just like, stay, we need numbers, which was really cool.
And in addition to that, we even had to start over kind of partway through the year. In January, we had a new member meeting, which sounds a little silly because usually you get new members in September, but we were struggling to get people, so we made a new member meeting. We created more announcements. We pushed the word out there. We got our friends to come, and we brought snacks because everyone loves free food. And so we did gain, I think 5 or 6 new members just from that meeting alone. So as the club grows, it'll be interesting to see how our numbers grow as well. That's all we have, I think. Any more questions?
How do you prepare to represent a country? I mean, you know, sources of information out there today, you don't always know if they're accurate. So what do you do for sources of information prepared to represent X country?
So me personally, I use UN.org because they have their full list of their past rules and regulations that they have submitted, as well as personal countries might have their own website regarding the topic. But I usually take about a week or so to prepare for this, and we write position papers, so about 1 to 2 page essays for it, and fully explaining your country's personal side on the issue. And there is another website that Narana has showed us. It's imuna.org, and it shows the country's personal profiles, and you can access different topics through that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions?
So during this process, do you start with the stances the historical stances that the countries have, are you then, you have the ability to be persuaded or persuade others, or, I mean,
Yes, so what's usually supposed to happen during the conference, you should, like, according to the history, you should be with the countries and you should be persuaded by the countries that you have your country has good relations with. So sometimes delegates don't do this. For example, in the conference that we were in, as a North Korea, for example, I couldn't have argued something that US would say because that would be completely against because of history and everything. So I was more together with China and we were writing position papers and resolutions together. So yes, it's basically you can be persuaded to agree to some resolution, but you should still keep your country's point of view. That's the key part.
So for our international students, can you tell us a little bit about your experience here?
Hello everyone, my name is Baktagul and I'm from country Kyrgyzstan. It's Miss friend told me that it will be more of a talking and showing differences of like education in my country and USA. So I want to talk. Kyrgyzstan located in Central Asia. We are neighbors with Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and a little bit with China. So I came from a program called FLEX. It's Future Leaders Exchange. Oops, sorry. It's really a popular program in my country. Every year, more than 10,000 students from 14 to 18 participate, and only 100 pass it. It's really really a popular program in my country. I want to tell a little bit about Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyzstan a little bit bigger than Wisconsin. It's really small country, and not a lot of people know. And when I was here, when I was meeting people, they didn't really know that, so I should like tell about more like where it is. And it was kind of hard, but I think I did because I'm in international club and I did a lot of presentation. And I also did in Makwanago Community Library during culture showcase. So I'm proud that I'm young ambassador of my country, and I want to tell more about my country in USA. So talking about education, education is really most important part of in my country too. It's really important because it's in my country says that young people are future of the world. I think everyone is agree. So I want to just talk about a little bit differences in high schools. Everyone in my school from 1st grade to 11th grade goes to the same school. It's not here like middle school, elementary school. Everyone goes to the same school. Children goes from 7. That's why we only have 11th grade. Also, we don't choose our classes. I think which is not really, I agree. I really love that here in USA you can choose your classes and you spend more time on classes that you love and you want to do in future. In my country, you have 19 classes per week. Here you have only 8. And you can choose your classes, schedule our teachers schedule ourselves. And we don't have lunches maybe, and we don't have lunches. We have 10 minutes breaks, but we don't have lunches like here. And most important part is that we go to school from 8 to 1. And I think it's really good because when you go to the big wish that I wanted to be in USA is that we here sit from we're at school from 7 to 3, which is you sit all day at school and you kind of tired, and after you go to to your house, you're tired and you just want to sleep. In my country, you go to from 8 to 1, which is really nice. So after that, you can do your other stuff, and you're more productive, in my opinion. What I like here is that you can really choose your classes. Here you more prepared to colleges in my country, because in my country you say you have to go colleges, but they don't really prepare. Here I have we have counselors, which is really nice. We don't have our counselors in our country. Advisors, which is really helpful to go to colleges and choose what you want. And I'm really glad that I'm here. It was America was my dream when I was child, and I'm really glad that I'm here now. American high school is really like in American movies, and and I think because we go from first grade to 11th grade with the same classmates, we all go from first grade to 11th grade like all together. Like 30 people from 11 years are together. And I think this is a difference in cultures that friendship in my country are more deeper than here. It's really nice that here you have different classes with different people, and you get to meet a lot of people. But I think friendship is not that deep in my like as in my country, which is kind of sad. But it's just different cultures. And yes, if you have any questions, you can ask me.
I'm just curious for the three of you, what your plans are. Don't get up yet. what your plans are after this year of school.
I'm 16, and I have one more high school year in my country. I will go back and I will study one more year. After that, I will go to my college probably in my country, but I wanna look maybe in Europe too. I know that colleges are here, it's really expensive, and I know that for international students they have like maybe some scholarship programs, but I'm not sure if I really want to come here. I really love America. It's like I have my like host family, I really love them, and now it's like I'm leaving in 2 months. It's kind of like I'm really excited to go home to meet my family because I didn't meet them 1 year and I really miss them. But from one point, it's like you're leaving, you're like, I don't know, second part of the heart. Your host family, it's like became your family, and it's kind of sad too. So I don't know, I feel like two feelings, but I know that I will come back. I don't know when, but I really want to come back. And I know that education in America is one of the really good education in the world, and I'm like really glad that I'm here. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. And as international club, I'm international club, and I really want to share. So we did a lot of like presentation. We're like with Nurana. We have the same like celebration tradition, and we had it's called Nowruz. It's New Year when it's like spring come. We celebrate this day, and we did with her like an international club. We had a lot of people. We cooked our traditional foods. We did sing a song, like dance, and show our cultures to students in the MHS. And I think America is really big that like sometimes people, students even like, it's like a world, it's like another world. And sometimes students are like struggle to know maybe geography or like even they don't know my country. I know it's hard to know, but I think I wish like students in America like learn more about other cultures and more about other countries and like, yeah.
So are you telling me you have 19 different classes a week while going to school from 8 to 1? So how many classes a day is that?
So like we go from 8 to 1, it's like 6 hours, but we have like six classes per day. But some classes are like once a week, twice a week, but some are three times a week. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's good from one different point too. When you learn something like 11 years, you have really good knowledge of it, so you can go anywhere. But in other side, you can't. Yeah, like if you don't like this class, like me, algebra, and you don't want to do it like 11 years, like it's kind of bad to do it. But like if you see you in other area like English or like history, I don't know. It's kind of hard to agree with it.
Thank you.
So to answer Mr. Vogel's earlier question about what I plan to do after high school, I am currently a junior, so I still have senior year to go. However, right now I'm looking at teaching English in a foreign country, preferably South Korea or Spain, and then returning to the United States and potentially taking a field in the Department of Education. So.
And I am starting college next year, and I'm applying to the colleges both in my country and also in Istanbul, Turkey. So it depends which one I'll get accepted. And I'm going to, maybe you can guess, I'm going to study international relations as being a model UNer and being an exchange student. And like my biggest goal is to be actual delegate in actual United Nations.
Good for you.
Good for you.
Thank you, ladies, very much. Anyone else?
Quick comment allowed at all? Exchange dad, and we also have another exchange daughter this year, Anissa from Thailand. And I just wanted to let you guys
Flex.
And is Anissa's?
No, Anissa, yes.
Okay, so the Flex and the YES programs are both sponsored by the State Department. So these kids are over here basically on government scholarship money. And the idea is that one's from majority Muslim countries, the other's from majority or from ex-Soviet Union countries. And these programs were set up for kids to come over here, learn about the culture, and then take it back. So, for instance, neither of them could come back. They can't get visas for 2 years after they go back, so because the State Department wants them to go back and share our culture. So, I just wanted to thank this school board, you guys, for allowing these kids to be part of the program here, both for I think the richness it brings to this community, and then also for the work that they do when they go back to their home countries and try to bring a more positive, idea of what we are over here. So, thank you very much.
Yeah. And about sharing American culture with my country, since I have one more year in high school, I plan to open American club and share. Like, I saw all the traditions that I do: Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. It's really huge. So I want to share with my country, with my even classmates or kids in my school. And I know that everybody, most people, most students in my country dream about America. So I want to show how it is and how they how culture looks like. And also in summer, I'm applying for English teacher, be English teacher, and also do talking clubs with my students maybe, or open my English school maybe or be teacher like that. Yeah, thank you.
Well, girl, go do all of them. Well done.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
All right.
Very good.
Did you have something else? to say?
Yes.
Well,
So
you
I
go
was
ahead.
actually gonna talk about my country too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So how many of you has heard about Azerbaijan before me?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Great. Yes.
Would you say that country again, please?
Azerbaijan.
Gesundheit. Yes.
Yes, because the most of the time when I tell someone that I am from Azerbaijan, the reply that I get is Azer what? And I'm like, that's the question. So Azerbaijan is a country in between Europe and Asia. It's transcontinental country which locates near Turkey, southwest of Russia, Iran, Georgia, and Armenia. And I am from the capital of the country, which is called Baku. And I'd also like to talk about some education differences in education. So what Baktagul said, we have similar kind of education system because we're both former Soviet Union countries. The things that I really like about American education is definitely that there are more class options that you can get to choose, and you can find your passions, you can find what you really love and what you really want to do, so you can decide what you're gonna do for the rest of your life later. And plus the club opportunities, here there are lots of clubs, lots of different activities, sports, they're so important. In our schools, however, academics are more important, and plus classes like science classes, math classes, they are definitely more important than music classes, which I don't necessarily agree, because not everybody must know the math or science. Maybe someone really loves acting or music. So, but one of the things that I do like about that is, for example, let's take math. In here, there are different kinds of maths like calculus, statistics, so you can choose which one you want to take in whichever year of high school you want. But in our schools, we should take math every year, and it goes level, harder and harder and harder, which I think it's good because your brain keeps working in this field whole your school life. So it's the same with the foreign language. If you learn it, but if you start using it, you're definitely gonna forget it. So it's same with math. So you build up on that skills in both science and math. So that's why I would like to say that our math classes and everything are more higher and harder. Here, all of the hard science classes are super easy for us exchange students, as because yes, they are really we pay more attention to those classes. And I'd also like to mention that in our school systems, I really like that we start learning foreign languages in really, really young ages, because then studies have shown your brain is better to get information and learn new things when you're actually 6. So I started learning English in 2nd grade, which I was 7 years old. But here they start paying more attention to Spanish or like German in high school. So I would like it to be here, like I would like people to start learning foreign languages too. And I'm also gonna agree with Baktugul saying I would like people to know more about the different parts of the world, different countries of the world, and understand like it's not only US, there are more in the world that you can actually know and learn about. And I really support the programs here like Global Education Certificate, which is, I think it should be like more developed, because there you get to learn about different countries and see the world. Because when you learn about different countries, for example, I'm not the same person as I was last year, because I can see the world from different point of view. I can think as an American and as an Azerbaijani, which are so different, and I think every student and every person should get this chance to do it. So I'd really like people here to learn more about the world, because in our countries and geography classes, you learn every single smallest country in the world, and you should know their capital and everything. But here, nobody knows about even like some. I understand they don't know about my country, but there are some countries that they should know, but they don't know. But other than that, I really like how teachers are more active here, and how there are more group work in classrooms. Like, it's not only like reading books and there are more tasks that are more interesting, and you're more active during classes. I really love that about US education system and teachers, how they like don't sit during whole class period, and like lots of pictures and PowerPoints, like everything is more colorful and interesting actually. I really like that too. And I also would like to say that I started Model United Nations Club firstly because I also wanted to contribute my host community, which has done a lot to me since I've been here. And I was thinking that it would really help people learn about different countries of the world and become more aware of it. That's one of the biggest reasons that I started it. And also in my country, before coming here, I got a chance to meet with the Minister of the Education of the Republic of Azerbaijan, and there he was talking to high schoolers, like best high schoolers of the country, to get their opinions and points of views about the school system and what they could improve. And I had this project that when I'm here, I will like observe this education system, and I would send them like report that what we could improve in our education system. And that's going to be definitely one of the highest things, that we need more classes and more clubs and everything. Yes.
Great.
Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Great
much.
job, ladies.
So much.
Okay, so we still have one more action item, McWanago High School math textbook adoption.
So Nick's here. I know that you guys ran this by the Learning Committee last week, Monday night, so.
So there is a memo in your packet on page, sorry, I should have had it.
42?
So 42 and 43?
Yes. So I did bring this to the Learning Committee last week because this is one of our large-scale kind of curriculum material adoptions. This is for 9th through 12th grade math, and so all of the textbooks over there on the table for every math class at MHS is up for review, and I've been, as you know, working with the math department, Mr. Pratt at the high school as the math department chair, to determine which materials we should purchase for the next adoption cycle, which could be 8 to 10 years. We're currently on year 11 of our previous adoption, so it's good to get these refreshed books and materials out to the classrooms. There are a couple of changes since the learning committee packet went out, and that's because the quotes for these materials came back much higher than, not much higher, well, yeah, much higher than I expected, let's just say it. And so I worked really hard at negotiating the price down. We were able to negotiate $30,000 in savings over the initial quotes because I was able to get some free shipping from some of the companies, able to get some additional materials thrown in for free that they were going to charge us for. And then in addition, I also, in the instances that I couldn't negotiate a reduction, I tried to negotiate additional things thrown in for free. And I've noted that on page 43. So all in all, between the discount on the original quote and the additional things being thrown in, I actually got about a $70,000 adjustment. So the bottom line is that the adjusted quotes are estimated to be $294,000 and change. And all of that's detailed on page 43. So as I said, we already discussed this at the learning committee meeting. Happy to answer any additional questions anybody has.
With everything that we do digital, why is this so expensive? Is it this stuff that we can do with Chromebooks and online?
So it's a great question. Textbook companies are gonna, I think they've determined that they are going to get their money one way or another. So if you want access to their book instead of their textbook, that's fine, but then they'll charge you a yearly subscription fee to have digital access. And the online subscription fee is actually not less than the printed textbook would be. And so we are still sitting in this, I think, you know, if you would have asked me or Mary Koski even, 8 years ago, I think we all thought the digital age of textbooks and curriculum materials was just, we were on the cusp of it. It was going to happen within the next couple of years. And it just hasn't. They have to put the books together regardless if they sell the hardcover or the digital. So there's not a cost savings in it. And especially when we keep text for 8 to 10 years, the yearly subscription fee, if you were to buy it on its own, doesn't actually make up or isn't less than it costs to buy the book, which I totally understand, Andy. It doesn't make sense, but that's the way it is still right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll ask Mike Katzen a question. This is within budget.
So it is not currently within the budget because it is coming back at more expensive than I expected. What I've talked with Sean and with Tom, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all my final orders together and then determine exactly how far over budget I'll be, because I will be able to take some funds from some other areas that I didn't spend on and put it towards this. But I believe that we've talked about the potential of going into fund balance for this, since it is a one-time cost, if needed. So.
So we're voting on it today? I mean, do we have to, or?
Well, that's why I took it.
The financing part sounds.
That's
like
why I took it to learning committee last week. So I was hoping to move forward tonight. So it went through learning committee. We discussed it. We talked through the finances. That was one of the things that came up.
So I'm sorry, did I miss? So the learning committee, what was your recommendation then?
We had Mr. Pratt was there, and he went through everything and how they did it, and they've gone to the teachers, and there were these like 5 different kinds, and there's the kind where you actually do it and then go back and learn it, and then there's the kind that so it's observation is one of them, and the other one is lecture. So after taking surveys and talking to everyone, they decided that this one has both in it, and so they feel that this would increase the, what was the name of this big idea, but what is the name of what they're doing in 6th grade? Discovery. That you were gonna go down to 6th grade, and they were gonna start, instead of doing everyday math.
Well, we're still piloting that, but that would
But
be big ideas
Big
also.
ideas, because they're having this drop-off, because he had come last meeting or the meeting before about how our math scores are peaking out at 5th grade, and then they're they're dipping. So they're hoping that so there really wasn't, this was about the choices that they felt.
And on the finance end of it, you guys are recommending
Yes.
to move ahead?
We are,
Without knowing do we know the cost or do we not know the cost?
Well, the cost
We
is
do
right
know the
here.
cost.
The
And
cost
it's
is
how much
right here.
over.
It's just how much exactly over we will be.
We didn't, when we started this budget process at the beginning of the school year and created our budgets, we didn't. There we go. When we started the budget for 18-19, this wasn't an anticipated cost. So right now, we never built this cost into the current budget. So I recommend that we do use fund balance to make this purchase. If we find efficiencies in the budget, we still have 3 months ahead of us, yes, to get through the rest of the school year here. But if there's other efficiencies, then we can always back out of that. But to make the initial purchase tonight, then I recommend that we use fund balance. We have ample amounts there, and we can certainly do this. So if, academically speaking, if it's something we're in favor of, we can certainly financially pay for it.
So this is in my budget. It's just I don't have 300,000 to put towards it. So I anticipated a math adoption this year. I am wrapping up a pretty extensive K-12 literacy adoption that ate into some of the funds for this year. Plus, we moved up the math adoption for the middle school, and some of that money ended up coming out of this year. So I have a good chunk of the funds to allocate towards this. It just won't be the whole amount. So we can certainly come back and give you an update on exactly how much we're over based on the curriculum budget and any, if we experience some budget efficiencies in other areas that we could put towards it, we may not have to dip into fund balance that much, right, Tom?
Correct.
So.
That's what I was gonna ask you, what do you anticipate it being over?
So
around?
I'm thinking about $100,000. Because I would have guessed, if you would have asked me at the beginning, I would have guessed 4 grades would have been closer to 200,000. But as we add more advanced courses, which we have calculus, we have 3 AP calculus classes or college level calculus classes now, AP stats. These books are $200 a piece. I mean, they're hugely expensive.
the math committee did an extensive amount of work. They surveyed like crazy. They piloted a number of programs. We were very impressed with the amount of work that went into it. I think we asked the same questions. We're like, wait, how much farther over did you go? I think what opened our eyes is realizing that this covers middle schoolers as well. For middle schoolers that were in advanced math, I think my mind was just on thinking high school, the 4 years, but because we have 7th and 8th graders advancing in math, there's a number of books for them as well, which increased.
That is a good point.
If you look at on page 43, it tells you how many, the number of copies you'll need. And so it's at the top, because that was one of the questions we asked, because there's 525 Algebra 1. It's like, well, why are there that many of that? And when it gets to the Algebra 2 and the transition, there's not as many. And it is because of the fact that you have to have the curriculum at both schools instead of just at one building.
Right. Last year when we did the middle school adoption, we just did 7th grade math and 8th grade math. We weren't going to adopt an algebra book at the middle school and then a different algebra book at the high school. So this includes the algebra and the geometry classes that are running at Parkview.
And while I think it's fair to say we weren't overly in love with the idea that it's costing way more than we thought, the curriculum itself and Mr. Pratt's explanations, and it seems like everybody is very much on board with the curriculum. It sounds like a great option.
So did we have a motion?
Yeah, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Yeah, it seems like the only problem is that Nick didn't really know his numbers, so maybe he should take some math course.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? No. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Any other major expenses coming up that we should anticipate over the next 2 months of school for the next school year?
No, so I mean, this is we're going to continue this battle as prices rise. So the next year's adoption is music, art and world language. Those aren't going to be textbook heavy adoptions. World language, there will be textbooks, but music and art, there probably won't be. That will be more in materials, potentially some equipment. No. But the following year, when we have to tackle high school social studies, if price inflation continues as it has, we will have to, and I will do more research on the front end to find out what are the potential costs of that kind of adoption, because those are textbook, they tend to be textbook heavy classes. And you know, if you want the high quality materials and the materials that are aligned to the AP tests and the things that they're using at the colleges, I mean, we all know how expensive college textbooks are. I mean, a lot of our courses are college level courses, so we have to buy college level textbooks. Unfortunately, all the mergers in the textbook industry have resulted in very few companies publishing, and it leads to a lack of competition, and it means that they know they can charge higher fees, and it's extremely frustrating. Please know that it's not just you that are feeling this way. I'm very frustrated by it, but I don't know what to do about it other than to
do them yourself.
Right, to make our own curriculum, which is extremely expensive in terms of paying people for the time to do it. So we will monitor it, and I'll keep you updated as we move forward. But no, for next year, for the rest of this year and next year, there won't be any other surprises.
That you know of, because that's why it's a surprise.
Thanks, Nick. Do
Okay.
we want to move down to Student Learning Committee while he's here?
Sure, I think that would be wise.
Sure.
Okay. English curriculum changes.
Yeah, so the minutes from the Learning Committee meeting are on page 52 in your packet. We covered a variety of topics, including the high school math revisions, which we already discussed. Any questions on those minutes? Or Cherry, I don't know if you guys had anything else that you wanted to add. The only, if I skip down to number 3, the only additional item is on page 54 of your packet, and I just wanted to share some information with all of you as Dustin and I work with a group of high school teachers to develop our healthcare academy. I'm really excited about this. We started the IT Academy a few years ago. It's been hugely successful, and our hope had always been that this would lead to academies in other areas, and next year it looks like we'll be ready to launch a healthcare academy. Christy Peterson, Stephanie Casey, and Emily Frazier have been the 3 teachers most involved in this, and there are some materials on pages 55 through 58 just kind of showing the course sequence, how this academy would be knitted together with some other experiences for students. And then really what our goal is to create an academy that would give students the option to go kind of the 4-year route of nursing or pre-med, but also to fill the needs in the skilled nursing, more kind of WCTC type of programs that also come out of health sciences. So really excited about this. We did some site visits at a couple of other schools in the county that have healthcare academies, got some good ideas from them, and really brainstormed what we think will work here, and I think it's pretty exciting. So Dustin and I will come back to you in the fall with kind of a final proposal, but I just wanted you to know that it was in the works, because I think it'll be really good for us, especially as Pro Healthcare opens their hospital in the next few years.
Will there be any designation at the graduation? I mean, any?
So we do that with the IT Academy now with the chords.
Yeah.
So we would do the same thing with this.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Right.
And it's
So
also noted on the student's transcript that they were a participant in the IT Academy or the Healthcare Academy.
And my only question was, why can't we do it sooner?
Yeah, so
There's no way to move it out.
so we're doing a lot of the courses already. I think the biggest the biggest thing to me that makes an academy different from just going through a series of courses. So first of all, I should say I think we're ahead of the game in having an actual sequence of courses. A lot of schools in the county and in the area have healthcare classes, but they're not necessarily building towards a goal. The thing that I think really sets an academy apart in my eyes is that ending capstone experience where students actually get out into a real world application. So it's great to learn all the things in these courses, but then how do I apply what I've learned in some sort of real world problem solving type of way, whether that's at a job site or a capstone course where we have business partners coming in and working with students. And that's going to take a little bit of preparation to do. The rest of it, we're really already doing. In addition, after next year, we will have had students go through the Project Lead the Way pathway. We added the first 2 courses this year. We'll add the 3rd course next year. And finally, in 2020, then students will have been through those first 3 courses in the Project Lead the Way program and ready for that capstone experience. So I believe we're already giving our health sciences students a better experience than in a lot of places. I think doing the academy as of 2020 will just be the icing on the cake.
That's great. I think it's important that as we always try and set ourselves apart from our competition, it'd be nice to be able to promote that we are moving ahead with this and that we are some of the front runners, as you say. If we can brag about that, let's find a way to do that.
Yeah, sure. We can, as we get down some more of the details, we can definitely push that out on social media and things like that. And the district website, the revamped district website this summer. So,
Where's our reporter?
yeah. I don't know.
Nick, do you have any updates on summer school? Since the
Oh, I
committee?
do. Thank you. Here's my post-it on summer school. We'll be happy to know that as of today, we have 645 students registered for elementary summer school. Last year, we ended, we actually had 574 students attend elementary summer school. So 574, we already have 645.
Cool.
Registration isn't over yet. It just started last Monday. So in a week, we've exceeded last year's. Eagleville, this year we have 113 in the AM session, that's now full, and 82 in the PM session for 195 students. Last year we actually offered the Eagleville program to 196 students, so we just have one less already enrolled in the E3 program. Parkview's a little bit lower, but they tend to register later. So there's 160 middle school students registered. We served 240 in summer school last year, but we expect that to go up as the registration deadline gets closer.
When is the deadline?
It's a good question. It's on the website, but I don't have it in my head.
You couldn't.
For summer school
For
registration.
which level? I'm sorry.
Oh, I didn't know there was different dates for different levels.
Well, the bottom line is that some students, for the remedial portion,
Right.
We don't know until much later in the semester if
But
they
for
need to
the
take courses, but
elective part of it, where they just want to go to take some summer school, is that another couple weeks?
Yeah, it's
like
a
that?
couple
yes.
weeks. I
Okay.
think.
Okay.
There's-
Might be
there's
spring
plenty
break.
of time to sign up.
Or it might be, no, Easter's just next week. I think it's after Easter.
Okay.
But,
That's fine.
okay. Thank you.
High school?
High school, I don't have those numbers. As Sean said, a lot of the high school is credit recovery, and we don't know all of those details yet because the students will get placed in those classes once we get closer to knowing second semester grades.
Is Parkview the same way, though? Is there credit
Not as much.
replacement? Not
Some
as
of
much?
it, but not as much.
Could you share with them about the new report card, because some of people at this table might be interested in that?
Sure. So one of the things we covered at Learning Committee are the changes to the high school DPI report card that we're expecting for next year. That's going to likely have an impact on high school report cards throughout the state. So far, the high school report cards have just been based on ACT, which students take in 11th grade. Starting this fall, they're going to include scores from ACT Aspire, which our 9th and 10th graders take, and use that as an accountability measure. As Sean and I talked, I'm a little frustrated by it because they're actually going to use 3-year averages to calculate some of the scores. So they're going to go back to times when people kind of thought ACT Aspire, we have to do it, but maybe it's not that important. And now it's going to be considered a part of our accountability and a part of our high school score. But that's the same for everyone across the state. So, I mean, we're in no different boat than anybody else, but.
You guys better have done well in that test.
So the inclusion of that ACT Aspire means it's going to have an impact on achievement scores because now those scores will count. It will allow the state to calculate a growth score. So high schools so far have not had growth scores on the DPI report card because you just measure 11th grade. There's no growth to take into consideration. And then they will calculate the gaps based on the ACT Aspire results. So that could have a big impact on different high schools. It's a little bit early for us to know exactly what that will look like for us. Our scores are good on ACT Aspire based on state averages, just like our ACT is way above the state average. So I'd like to think it will have a positive effect, but we really won't know for sure until they release it. So just something to be aware of, that this fall when those high school report cards get released, you won't really be able to compare last year to this year because it will be a totally different metric. So thanks, Sherry. Good point. Anything else for me?
No, I just, the schools that are trying to, focus on the trades and trying to get students to, that they already are sold that they don't want to do a 4-year college, that they want to get into all our employers' jobs, that they're trying to focus, us on how to, then the.
No, I think that's a great point.
The people that are bailing out of the trades, our
it's hard to
local
convince.
districts, they're, they could do better, and yet we have the best employees in the real world coming out of our school.
It's hard to convince students who have selected that non-4-year pathway to take the ACT super seriously,
Yeah, exactly.
and yet that's the only thing we're really judged on as a school.
And that seemed to be a state nation focus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and then they're changing a report card.
Yeah, the report card does not accurately reflect our efforts to make sure that all of our students are going to be college and or career ready. And so if you are going into the skilled trades, which is obviously a great option, you may not be taking an ACT college, 4-year college course selection. And so you may not do as well on the ACT, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah, or you might not.
But that's not going to be reflected on our. That's not going to be reflected on our. It will be negatively reflected on our report card, actually.
Exactly.
And so that's frustrating. That
Yeah.
is something that the state needs to continue to work on to be able to recognize the work that we're doing.
Yeah.
So good point.
Nick, didn't you share with us that there is going to be a part on that report card or on that report about the schools that support the trades? And
So in addition to the ACT Aspire, they're saying that they're going to include some CTE information. It's going to be informational only. So the purpose, it appears, to be able to give families that information on how many students are taking college level or dual enrollment courses, how many students, I'm trying to think of all the different CTE kind of measures. They want to measure community service hours and put that on there. There's a variety of things, but those things will be information only right now. I wouldn't be surprised if eventually they turn into a category where there's points attached, but for right now.
But it was a step in the right direction, Art.
Yes. So, talking about those transcripted credit courses at WCTC and workplace or work-based industry recognized certifications looks like that's going to be on there, and the number of students taking part in career pathways or workplace experiences. It looks like that might be on there. But again, those are just going to be numbers, FYI, not actually impacting the scores. So yeah, a step in the right direction.
Anybody else? Thanks.
Thanks,
Yep,
Nick.
thank you.
Erica, I'm sorry, if we could, Alex and Ben have been waiting patiently. We have not gotten to the student rep report yet, and I'm not even sure if I have it on the agenda. So I'm hoping that these guys can do the report, and then they probably want to head out. It's getting late for them. They probably have some homework studying to do.
Yeah, you guys are fresh. You guys
But,
are fresh.
and then I do want to
You
point
have
out that next
expired.
month in May, that's when we'll be selecting the new student reps to the board. We'll go through that process. Andy Menke has agreed to help out with that process. But I think you guys will still be here at the meeting in May, along with the 2 reps. And so then we'll say our thank yous at that time.
Don't they have to bring us baked goods at the last?
That is not a requirement. And the student rep report is in your folder at the table tonight.
All right, I'll start it off with Mugwanago High School. The MHS robotics team 930 had a great competition over spring break. They finished first out of 48 teams, and they made it all the way to finals, but they lost tragically. And they ranked first out of 53. And I heard from a bunch of people that were actually there that it was a really great time, and that even though they didn't win the finals, that it was really great to get all the way up.
Just gonna jump on over to Parkview Middle School. Parkview's Social Studies Department had another successful Washington, D.C. trip last month for 23 7th and 8th grade students in order to further their learning about American history and government. This is an every other year trip, and they will be going to our nation's capital again in 2021. Everyone had a wonderful time.
All right, on to Prairie View. They had a science challenge day where they were given a design challenge and had to build using limited materials and had to achieve the purpose of not having the marshmallow fall out of the cup.
Rolling Hills. At Rolling Hills, 4th grade students went to Camp Edwards to learn how to learn how maple syrup is made. 2nd grade students attended Y Splash and commenced the 6th grade Student of the Year interviews conducted by the Kiwanis Club. The staff has been working hard to prepare the students for the week's forward exam. Staff wrote individual notes of encouragement to all 3rd and 6th grade students about to take the test, and younger students made posters to cheer them on, as well as a fun video from staff members to give words of advice. Now that is a way to celebrate standardized testing right there. There we go.
At Section, on March 22nd, the 6th grade basketball team took on the staff in the staff versus student basketball team, and the Mugwanago Police Department also had a member playing on the staff team, and the 6th grade students were victorious 32 to 20.
And we have a nice picture in your folder from the Mugwanago Times of the police officers from the town of Mugwanago Police Department participating with the section kids. It was really nice of those guys to join.
Yep. So at Big Bend Elementary, 6th graders competed in the Wisconsin Math League contest and finished 13th in the state. 4th grader Aaron Johnson participated in the 6th grade competition and led the team by finishing 20th overall in the individual competition, while 5th grader Lizzie Murray finished 29th overall. That would be all.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
You guys gotta stay. I have to stay, you have to stay.
Come on. I don't know that English project says otherwise.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
See you guys.
Great. So finance and facilities report.
Oh, that's right. Hey, thanks.
Thank you. Congrats on it.
That was kind.
All right. So think Andy left. I think he went home. Uh-oh. It's all good. Andy, come on in, bud. All right, we bring to you tonight the, hey, bud, there you are. So we're bringing before you tonight the 1920 Buildings and Grounds budget. We typically bring this budget to you in advance of the rest of the budget so we can make plans come July 1 and so on and so forth as we enter the 1920 school year. So I want to bring your attention to page 45. Page 45 is a high-level overview of the budget, and I'll talk about that. Andy's here as well. If you have any questions, please ask. There also is all the details in this budget, on page 46, but if we look at page 45, there's 3 areas of the budget that I think it makes sense to compartmentalize the budget. We have our non-utility costs. Part of these costs are in Fund 10, our general budget, and then the other part is in Fund 41. All costs that are in Fund 41 have to be for the purpose of maintaining a building or strengthening a building. It's about repairs and maintenance, essentially, is what is an eligible Fund 41 cost. It can also be building expansion, but those are our regular reoccurring costs that are not utility related, okay? In 17-18, we increased this, in this current school year, we increased this budget by $65,000 as a part of allocating the $350,000 from question 2 in the April 2016 referendum. We're not increasing it beyond that. We increased it last year when we allocated the money. We're proposing that we keep it the same at $1.165 million. So we're holding that budget the same as what we have in the current year. Do you have any questions about the costs that are under there or descriptions? There are some details, but please ask if you have any. Utility costs, we're also keeping this budget the same at $1,065,000 and change. This is an increase in 18-19, the current school year. We increased this budget by $118,000, again, as we allocated parts of the $350,000 that we asked for in question 2 back in April 2016. So the utility costs are the same. The budget is the same as it is in the current year as we head into next year. Finally, we have our one-time capital project costs. These, the $2,062,000 ties back to what we have in the 10-year capital plan. So in the past, we've typically just scheduled Fund 41 regular reoccurring costs, but we didn't include our bigger capital projects. So this year, as we enter this year, we're going to go all in terms of the detail that goes into our costs for Fund 41. So we have $2,062,000 there for our one-time capital projects there. And if you are wondering what those projects are, they are the Clarendon, the work we have going on at Clarendon, some work at Eagleville, Parkview Middle School, the front entryways at Section, and the front entryways at Prairie View Elementary.
What work is going on at Eagleville?
We have, go ahead,
Eagleville
Eddie.
and Clarendon are getting both new carpeting as well and flooring as well as paint on the walls.
Are we painting classrooms?
What's that?
Are we painting classrooms?
Yes, classrooms and then some hallways at Eagleville. Eagleville will be more of the entire school, where at Clarendon it'll be the classrooms.
Okay. Will there be help for the teachers taking down all of their stuff off the walls, or are they all for one and one for all?
So there will be some help, but I'm meeting with them actually on Wednesday to kind of show them what they can be doing now, and then what they can be doing towards the end of the year. It is the goal that they would have everything packed up and ready to go by the end of the year. Part of it would also be what is it that they can purge and get out of their room, because some of our teachers that have been here for a while may have some items that could just be gone versus moving them back. So same as what we did at the high school.
So part of the math that goes into this is that we assume that 10% of all those major projects would occur by June 30, and the other 90% would occur after July 1. And that can change based on rates of the workers getting things done. So sometimes, again, if it's financially advantageous to work our equalization aid formulas to our advantage, we will try to push work up before June 30 or prior to June 30 if it helps us increase our equalization aid and bring down property taxes. So this is our best guess estimate as to what we think is going to transpire as we move forward. It's a little bit of a moving target, but generally speaking, we'll be right on with it.
We have plumbing repairs on
do.
Really?
I haven't found any yet.
Also, I had asked Tom to explain why, if you look at contract services, under custodial contract, Parkview is the only school that has a contracted service, and it jumped off the page to me.
Sure.
Maybe you all know, so why don't you explain it?
Well, you got my response, correct? Okay, just checking. So, yeah, we have a contracted custodial cleaner at Parkview Middle School. This gentleman, Stefan, has been with us for a number of years, and typically when you're getting a contracted cleaner, it's only as good as the cleaner they give you. So Stefan's been with us for quite some time. It's proven more cost efficient to bring him in the manner we do than if we were to hire him in-house in terms of cost benefits and all the other things that come with it, the fringe benefits in particular. So how long has Stefan been with us for? Since I've been here, at least.
He's been here a number of years now. There is the possibility that he may be leaving this year, and if he does leave, I've been in contact with his employer to let him know that we were looking to replace that with a district employee at that time.
Right. Any other questions that we can answer? We'll look to approve this at the next meeting in May. So let me know in the meantime if there's any questions. Okay, then the next thing we have then is going to be 4K community partner reimbursement rates on page 51. We have to establish our rates that we pay our, thanks Andy, the rates that we pay our 5 community partners for upcoming 1920 school year. So on that list, I've given you the rates that we've reimbursed our partners since 15-16 when the 4K community partner program was adopted. We're currently at $2,675. That's the rate that we give to our partners per 4K student. So there's not a lot of school districts locally that use a community partner approach. A lot of them have it in-house. So Muskego and Waukesha are the 2 best districts that we can look to for comparisons. And so I'm proposing tonight that we look to increase the rate by $50, which would be a $12,500 increase. It keeps us in line, close in line with where Muskego and Waukesha are at, relatively speaking, with our revenue limits. We'll be at $9,500 next year, and then also where Waukesha and Muskego are with theirs. I think that this is what makes sense. Is there any questions I could answer for anybody on that?
So we get 29 per pupil. That's how much the district receives from.
For our revenue limit, you're talking about.
Yep.
So it's $9,400 per student. A 4K student counts as 6/10 because they only spend, a reduced number of hours a day in the classroom.
So what is 6/10 of that?
Let me take a look here. 1 second. $5,700 at $9,500, which is what it'll be next year.
Okay. I guess, does Muskego and Waukesha get more per student?
They do. They do.
So isn't it go to say that we would, if we don't get as much per student, then we wouldn't have to pay as much per student because
Correct.
that's the game we play in Mugwanago?
Correct.
So we didn't necessarily have to compete with Muskego because we're not in the same game.
But we're still less than those two,
Right.
right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're about $500 less than Muskego and about $200 less than Waukesha. I think Waukesha's revenue limit's about $9,800 per student. So I guess the end game, when our revenue limit goes from 94 to 9,500, so on and so forth, that we would be somewhere in the ballpark as Waukesha, not to be more, not to be less, but to be very comparable with them.
What kind of feedback are we getting back from our partners regarding our payment rate? Have they been coming to us saying, hey, you got to do something about this, we need to raise that? Or are we trying to be proactive to keep them happy? Like, what's the reasoning behind it?
At $2,500, I think we were incredibly low back when it started in 15-16. So I think we essentially started fairly down there, so to speak. So now we're just at this point lifting it up. So this is a step in the right direction, in my opinion, to to invest in the students. They have the same issues that we have in terms of, of hiring workforce and the cost increases that are coming with it. So
I guess I'm looking, is this in response to some sort of frustration on behalf of our 4K vendors, or are we just trying to head that off?
We're trying to be good partners.
yes,
I think we value that partnership.
please.
Sorry. So, and we'll be talking about the Palmyra Eagle situation here in a few minutes. But I think we can all agree right now that we do not have room in our elementary schools to bring all of our 4K programs into our buildings. So I do think that we want to continue to have that partnership with our 4K community partners. So we're being good partners, and that's it. That there have not been complaints, at least that not have come to my level or Tom's level. And as you know, we lost one this year.
But to be clear, that wasn't because of our rates. That was because
They're closing their doors.
School closed, correct?
I can't speak to what their reasons were for closing down.
There were a
Alright.
lot of reasons.
Okay.
I happen to know a guy that knows.
But your comment wasn't meant to
I know
allude
the
to the
guy that
fact that
made
it
the
was our
decision.
4K funding?
Oh, no, not at all.
Okay.
No, I'm not implying that they closed because of our 4K funding.
Alright,
No,
thank
not
you.
at all.
Because of
Because that's what it sounded like.
No,
a little bit.
I want to keep our community partners as best we can.
Anybody else?
So again, we're not looking for action on this tonight. We'll look to take action at the next meeting, but if there's any questions or concerns,
Yeah, I guess, is there some information that you'd like us to bring back so you're more comfortable with this process?
Do we know that they spend all that we give them on the students?
I would go to say, yeah.
Okay.
It's,
Well, it's I'm just thinking as a company, what, is it all,
Well, it's-
is
I'm
it
sure it's
costing them more?
auditable.
Is it costing them more than we're paying them to have this, or is it coming out of their budget, or I'm just curious.
Sure, we can come back with that information.
I mean, because that would be if they're spending more, if their costs are more, then that would
No, we understand.
be credibility for.
Good question.
Anybody else? Nope. Okay, unfinished business, superintendent's report.
So I have a few things. Sorry. But why don't we take the last one first, which is the easier one. So just want to get your input on the strategic planning meeting that we had. Any input on that as we start to plan for the next one? I can tell you that we recognize that we spoke too long, that we probably had too much information to share, and that there wasn't enough interaction from the group. Sort of a necessary evil to share all that information. So I know you guys knew that stuff, but a lot of the other committee members did not. They are not as familiar with the districts.
Sean, I heard some people say that they learned more in that meeting than they've known about the district in years. So
You did a good
as
job.
much as we heard it 100 times, they probably needed to hear it. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought my table was attentive.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, it's dry sometimes, but I think if they showed up, hopefully they were willing to sit and be patient with what
Mhm.
was put before them if they're going to contribute.
The real test will be if they come
Yeah.
back to the next meeting, right?
Right.
I mean, you only had 2 people that didn't
Or if your tires
Right.
make it.
And they had told us ahead of time they weren't going to be able to make it, and they have told us they'll be at the next meeting. So we will have more interaction. We'll have more activities at the next meeting. So it will not be the same sit and get. So the next meeting is May 20, and we'll be at the high school again, and I'll be sure to share that information with you guys ahead of time. We'll have an agenda for you. Okay, so I'm sure you're all aware that the referendum in Palmyra Eagle did fail last week, and the vote was not close. And last Thursday, they did have a meeting where they had as a discussion item on their agenda on whether or not they should move forward with the dissolution. And the consensus was at that board meeting that they would continue the process to dissolve. They have a meeting tonight where that is an action item. So we should know more tomorrow or later this evening on whether or not they're going to proceed with that process. But from what we are hearing, they will proceed with the process to dissolve. So in your folder tonight, we do have a memo that, and you've seen this before, I think we shared this with you back in November or December, but that memo does outline the process for dissolution. So if the school district of Palmyra Eagle decides to dissolve, they need to pass that board resolution prior to the end of June. And then that entire process, if they do decide that, that entire process goes to the Department of Public Instruction. And then you can see the timeline, the potential timeline there for the Department of Public Instruction. So I do want to make sure that we're all on the same page. This is not a dissolution or to close down Palmyra Eagle for this coming school year. So they will be open for 2019-20. So this is the process and the timeline for dissolution or closing for 2020-21. So what they're contending right now is that with their current operations, they will have enough money for next school year, but they will not have enough for the following. And that's why they're potentially starting that process.
Who determines, if this proceeds as laid out here, how is it determined where all the pieces go?
So if you take a look at Tom's memo here, so the Department of Public Instruction will have people appointed to a committee to take a look at that. And I talked to the DPI today, and that group would actually come to Palmyra Eagle School District and surrounding districts to hold public hearings to talk to citizens about the potential impact or get their input on the potential impact for dissolving that district. They can order the district to remain open. As a matter of fact, the last 2 times that districts have filed for dissolution, the Department of Public Instruction has refused to allow them to do that.
Isn't that a little backwards?
So in both those cases, they did go back out for referendum prior to the decision, and they did pass an operating referendum. So after they voted to dissolve, after the school board passed that resolution to dissolve, then the DPI got involved, started that process, gathering information, looking at dissolving the district. Then those districts both went back out and passed an operating referendum. My understanding is, and what I've read, and you've probably read or heard, that Palmyra Eagle cannot do that. That because of the changes in state law, which don't allow you to repeatedly go out for referendum, that they have to wait. And so they cannot go out again next April. They have to wait. And so once this process starts, it doesn't look like they'll get any operational referendums passed in time.
How many kids are in the district?
So right now, attending their schools, it's about 800. We have over 200 of their students that are open enrolled into our district currently. They have about 340 that open enroll out. So 200 here and then about 140 to other districts. So Palmyra Eagle, even though it's a small, their schools are small, geographically, they are a large district. And they touch not only on Mugwanago, they not only border Mugwanago, but they also border Kettle Moraine, even a little bit of Oconomowoc, Jefferson, Fort Atkinson, Whitewater, and East Troy. So how the Department of Public Instruction and the committee that they create, of board members, by the way, how they would divide up the district, nobody really knows. And if people say they know what's going to happen and where kids are going, that's just false. So That's a process that has started.
It's all speculation, but would it be, could we assume that we might see an increase in open enrollment?
So we have seen
next year?
and I will send you an email here in the next week or so. So the open enrollment period closes on April 30, and Laura gets the open enrollment requests, and we have been watching how many students from Palmyra Eagle have applied, and we have seen some more since the vote. But to tell you how many, it's a little premature yet because that doesn't close until April 30.
So you said 800 total. How many are in their high school?
I don't have that, but I'm
Like 100?
guessing about
100?
250.
Oh, okay.
So usually in your 7, 8, you have about half your, or I'm sorry, your 7 through 12, you have about half of your students. So if they have, I'm not doing math real well right now, but
It's
400 in their elementary and maybe in their elementaries, because they have one in Palmyra and one in Eagle, and then another 400 at the middle school, high school. So, okay, Tom has it for us, 318.
Thanks.
So then, again, if the Department of Public Instruction would award students to us, and again, this is premature because we don't even know that they're going to go forward with this process. But not only do the students and the property come to that district, but remember that the debt for the district, proportional debt. So if we received 1/3 of their students, 1/3 of their debt potentially, but also if we would get the village in the town of Eagle, and again, this is premature, but that means the Eagle Elementary would be a part of that deal. And then there's also the staff that have to be, that piece, that component has to be determined too. So if you have other questions that I can answer, or we can answer about that, but you can let me know. So shifting gears a little bit then. Actually, if we could talk about, let's go to the Eagleville enrollment. And that memo is on page 62. So currently we have about 107 students at Eagleville Elementary. With the registration process starting, we are looking at an increase in enrollment at Eagleville. And I do think that it's time to start talking about capping enrollment at Eagleville. Eagleville is a small school. There are 5 classrooms. Now we have 7 grades, and so they do grade sharing at Eagleville. So it's not like we have a separate kindergarten classroom, separate first grade, separate second grade. As a matter of fact, I think it would really be beneficial for, if you have not been to Eagleville, that we make arrangements to have you take a look at the building. That gives you a better idea. I was principal there for 4 years when Rolling Hills first opened up, and we got as high as 120 students. It was too many students for that building in a variety of different ways. So I think we have to have that discussion about capping enrollment. The proposal that we have here puts us at 118. And some of you have had children that have attended Eagleville Elementary. And I think, Erica, your daughter is there right now, and Art, your son, has been there. And I know when Skylar was there, it was not that high. But it's tight there now. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would agree.
And so I think we either have to cap enrollment or have other discussions, such as getting a trailer, a classroom trailer, or maybe take a look again at having the grade 6 students, not for next year, I'm talking about down the road, the grade 6 students possibly go to section or Rolling Hills or Prairie View. We've done that in the past. But it's a good problem to have, don't get me wrong, 5 years ago, we were talking about not enough kids at Eagleville, but now we might end up with too many.
And you'll probably get some more Eagle kids, maybe, possibly.
And I think that's a distinct possibility.
So choosing to cap the enrollment just means that some kids are forced to choose a different school.
Right, so Eagleville is a choice school, and so they don't have their own enrollment area. So all the students that go to Eagleville are choice. Their parents are choosing to send them there, so they're not attending their elementary school that where they live. Instead, their parents it's a charter school, so that's why they're choosing to go there. We already have 20 students that are interested in attending Eagleville for kindergarten.
And are those all in district?
They are not all so they're not all living within the Mugwanago School District. Some are open enrollment. Now, some are open enrolled already into our 4K, so they're going to be in our school somewhere.
Which is great. I mean,
this is,
many
again,
here
this isn't
that are in our district.
It's not a criticism of anything or anyone. Because of the success, it's a great school.
However, we can get them to come in, and that's what we always used Eagleville for. I mean, it was great for open enrollment, drafting.
Right, about 1/3 of the students there are open enrollment, so they live outside the school district and they're open enrolling in.
So Sean, with the, talking about the open enrollment, with the Kettle Moraine situation, the referendum failing, we might even see some more kids, maybe.
So I think
not Eagleville, but other great schools.
I think what we want to focus on with the Kettle Moraine School District is, and I shared this with the Strategic Planning Committee, the number of our students that leave the district that go to Kettle Moraine. I think we need to take a look at that first, stem that tide, and then maybe take a look at how we attract other students from Kettle Moraine to come here.
So if we cap it at the 118, you think that's manageable for that building, or are you pushing your luck?
I think we're
120 is like stretching the limits.
120's tough. There's no doubt about it. And it's not that we can't educate students with 118 or 120, but you don't have as much space if you're doing interventions for your specials, for music, art, and Phi-Ed. Those things really get tough to do. And so I would not want to, at this time, I wouldn't recommend going lower than 118. And I would ask for some flexibility here because, as I said in I think the last paragraph, we don't want to say no to siblings. So if older brothers and sisters attend there, I think that's not helpful for families when you say no to that younger sibling. That doesn't work well. So we might have to exceed that 16 at kindergarten or 18 at that's put on my glasses.
Sounds like a plan.
18 at 4th grade. So.
But you already said you had 20 for kindergarten for next year, so that's already above the cap.
Right, so that might mean that an open enrollment student, we would talk to them about going to Rolling Hills or to Section for kindergarten.
So then what happens if we inherit the school in Eagle through the DPI dissolution and we inherit more students? Then we're also faced with another school in our district and additional students.
So it's really difficult to say until we knew the number of students. And again, it's probably premature, but I'm guessing that there would be a lot of people, if that did happen, a lot of people would support keeping Eagle Elementary open. Eagle Elementary and Eagleville, just to be clear on that.
Right.
But would that make good financial sense? Are they only separated by what, 5 miles?
Eagle?
Eagle Elementary is closest actually probably to Rolling Hills.
Yeah, I mean,
And
it's.
so I'm
Eagleville's
not quite
way
sure
that-
how many miles that is, but
Further
It
away.
really is
And
about
they're
almost less than 2
apples and
miles
oranges.
between Section and Rolling Hills.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying with Eagleville and Eagle Elementary. Those two schools, they're in pretty close proximity to each other, I think.
No. They're apples and and oranges. I mean, we're in the business of educating students, and we want growing enrollment. Otherwise, it costs our taxpayers.
So here is the village of Eagle, and Eagle Elementary is just a little bit north of the library, if you know where the library is. And so Eagleville is on Eagle Springs Lake, it's located right here. And then Rolling Hills is here. So I guess Eagle Elementary, which is it closer to Eagleville? Probably, it's probably closer to Eagleville, but
Clear shot.
they're both very close. Eagle is close to Rolling Hills and to. So we're looking for some guidance from you tonight. Are you comfortable with those caps?
I am.
Yeah,
Sounds with
I am.
having that experience
Sure.
at Eagleville.
Okay. All right, we'll proceed with those guidelines then. And then the next one is similar of nature. And I want to get the pages.
Page 59.
So the class size policy, which is 2312, we're on page 59 and 60. And so again, I'm looking for a little administrative leeway here. If you take a look at my memo, it explains the situation that we find ourselves in from time to time at some schools, especially when we go from moving students from 3rd grade to 4th grade. The threshold for where you can have the number of kids for a class size changes from 3rd to 4th grade. And so the way the policy is written, that you reduce sections when you go from 3rd grade. Let's pretend we have 3 sections of 3rd grade. When you go to 4th grade, you can actually reduce the number of sections from 3 to 2 if your existing class size won't exceed 28. So you can see in these with this year, we have 3 elementary schools that are in this boat: Big Bend, Clarendon, and Prairie View. Right now at Big Bend, for example, we have 3 3rd grade classrooms. They have 19, 19, and 18. Projecting forward, we would combine some of those kids for next year in 4th grade and make 2 classes of 28.
I have a little concern with that, only because as we've started moving into including our special ed kids more into the classroom more of the day, along with some of them maybe having aides with them or something else, you can have upwards of 30, 31 people or so in a classroom, which gets crowded, especially if you have some issues with some other, some of the kids. Also, this doesn't take into account that as the school year begins, many times there are new students that come into the school, and so that would push the number of kids in the classroom even higher. And so I have a concern about scooching it up that higher, even though I know what the policy says, and I understand what the intent was when the policy was written. I don't think we were looking at what we do now with special ed kids then. It's changed somewhat. And so that ends up making that room that much more packed physically. And that doesn't allow for some of the different kinds of education that you're trying to achieve with, the readers workshop and with some of these other things. It just gets to be a little bit difficult. And we have had, I know for a fact, here, sorry about that. I know for a fact there's behavioral issues we keep running into at times, which makes it even more difficult for some of the, when you have larger numbers of kids. So I understand what the policy is, I get it, I just am reluctant to go there.
And the policy also, I think it was, and in other years, there would be like 3 and you'd average it, so all of the average between the classes would have to come up to the maximum, so some would have 29, some would have 28, some would have 26. That would have to come up, but if you're looking at this just straight out, you're already at maximum.
So, under this scenario, at Big Bend and Clarendon, if they received one more student, so what we do to come up with these projections is we actually survey the families, our current families, and ask them, are you coming back next year? And if they say yes, then we count them in this. And if they don't respond, then we call them and make sure, find out what they're doing. And if they say no, we're moving, then we take them out. But right now, that's what we're projected to have at Big Bend in 4th grade next year, 56, which results in 2 sections.
So as enrollments come in over the summer, if we get additional, that number has to be adjusted.
So then if we had one more student at Big Bend and one more at Clarendon between now and September 1, we'd go to 3 sections. So I guess what I'm asking tonight, this is your board policy. So is there administrative leeway when we are so close? Do you want us to reduce the sections and tell the 3 4th grade teachers that we have at Big Bend right now, one of you has to go to a different grade level? The same thing at Clarendon. Or do you want to give the administration some leeway?
I would opt for giving you leeway.
I would also.
That's what I'm asking tonight.
I'm good with leeway.
What way does your leeway lean?
That's what I was wondering. Good question.
Well, I
Larger
think we can
classroom
just-
or a
Yeah.
smaller classroom?
Yeah.
He'll look out for our students.
So I think so especially at Big Bend and Clarendon, it would be difficult to reduce to 2 sections. If we reduce to 2 sections, I think you know that the parents will not be happy.
Yeah.
That they've gone from 18, 19, and 19, 19, and 18, and then to tell them that they'll be at 28, and then we have 3 4th grade teachers, and one of those teachers would have to slide into an open position at Clarendon. And if there's not an open position at Clarendon, she would have to pick another building. So there's an opening in 6th grade at Big Bend, for example. And that's where we would plan on them going for next year. And we might get a new student May 1st. We might not get a new student until July 1. So, again, that's why I'm looking for flexibility within the policy.
Leeway.
Leeway.
Some leeway, I guess, is how I described it.
So are we all good with a little bit of leeway?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. That's what I needed. And then the board committee selection process, I've in the packet on pages 63 to 65. I put the various different committees and the selection process policies. And tonight we have the little sheets of paper that you fill out to, if you want to take one and pass them down, you fill them out as far as what your committee preference is. And then you give that to the new board president, and then the new board president decides. My recommendation is that you fill it out either tonight or you send it in. Did you want to make those selections tonight, Erica, or do you prefer to wait?
I'm going to say let's wait.
Okay. So, and when would you like them turned in by?
Can you guys make this decision quickly? Or do you need time to think about it? Or do you want to know right now? I mean, if you fill them out and hand them over, we can look at them quick. I just don't know if we want to decide.
I
Right
would
now at
I would
10
recommend
p.m.
that you wait. We have
Yeah,
time.
take a look at it.
We're not looking to have a committee meeting in the next week or anything.
Yeah.
Is that true, Nick? Did we not
Unless
schedule
Nick
a
is-
committee? Okay, okay. So by the end of the week? Or no? Okay.
And then correspondence and legislation. If you take a look in your folder, We have some nice letters in there. A letter from Andy Trudell to Paula Pierce, thanking her for the painting that she donated in honor of her husband who passed away last year. Jen Sirkowski, who's one of our business teachers at Parkview Middle School, being recognized by the Wisconsin Retired Educators Association for the work that she's doing in her classroom. And I know some of you have participated in that, in the activity when they do the food and beverage, I'm forgetting the name of it, food and beverage convention project.
At the middle school.
At the middle school, yeah,
Yeah.
Jen Sirkowski.
It's really cool.
Yep, it really does a nice job. And then also the Kiwanis Foundation is going to sponsor another scholarship. And so we greatly appreciate all of their support, the Kiwanis Club and the Kiwanis Foundation. So, and then like I mentioned before, the town of Mugwanago Police Department, their officers helping out with a section basketball game. And that's all I have.
Any board member questions?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Citizens' comments. And now you
I
can
make a motion to adjourn.
Did I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?